Before we begin this episode of Quick Hits, I would like to extend prayers to the families of Bobby Jenks, the baseball player that lost his life due to stomach cancer, to Diogo Jota, the soccer player that had the wreck and his car exploded with him and his brother inside and they lost their lives, and to the countless people who lost their lives in the floods that are going on in Texas. It's praying time in our nation. It's praying time in our world. And I would like to start off the episode with a moment of silence. Thank you. Can't fall off, now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly. Welcome to Quick Hits. I'm your host, Shannon Smith, aka Podcast Smitty. If you're new to the show, what's good? I'm Shannon. I'm a fan of sport, and Quick Hits is dropping weekly to discuss headlines in the field of sports. So if that's what you came here for, go ahead and give this video a like. Get into those comments. Let's talk some sports. But most importantly, go ahead and subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel and go through the plethora of podcasts that we have in the field of TV and movies, sports, and sports entertainment. Now let's get into this fan of a fan segment. I have two podcasts that I want to shout out to and give my support to. Friends of the podcast, and just one that I'm a general fan of. So my first shout out I want to give is to four guys: the real Dwayne Allen, Brian H. Waters, Brandon the Guy, and the super producer H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the D, has the third from Wrestling Realm. Mounting off with Mike, had a day cap for Bash in Berlin last year, and I met Brandon the Guy on that podcast. We had a lot of fun talking Bash in Berlin. Brandon the Guy and Has the Third had me on an episode of Championship Culture with them, discussing the bloodline, and I had a great time with those guys. Very insightful guys on the podcast here. They did really, really well. I like these guys. Their podcast that they have on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock is awesome. Enjoy it. Have a great time watching it. They're very entertaining. Go and see those guys. It's Wrestling Realm, which is WREALM on YouTube. Go ahead and watch them. And when you do, remember, every belt has a story. And my next shout out goes to That Sports Podcast. That Sports Podcast is what they're called. This network and my podcast have a lot in common, which is they cover a barrage of sports. They had a pretty cool golf podcast that I got to watch this past week while I was on vacation. I was watching a lot of podcasts from a lot of creators, got some ideas, gave some support. It was really cool. I got to see that podcast. That was pretty dope. They talk fantasy football, betting odds, individual and team sports. Go check them out at That Sports Podcast. Now, today is Fan of Sport Tuesday. I'm going to do a little something different. You know, the rapid fire hit it and quit it segment. I usually do that, but I decided I'm going to step away from that. I realized that, you guys can watch SportsCenter and you can get your updates on these numerous sporting events. I'm still a fan of sport. I'm still going to talk about it. I have four topics that I want to talk about on today's episode. The first one, of course, is I'm talking about my man, Max Verstappen. I'm a big fan of Max Verstappen. Became a fan of Formula One racing. There's talks of him leaving Red Bull and going to Mercedes. And that's kind of sparked a thought in my head about loyalty in sports. Does it exist? Does it not exist? I'm going to talk about that. President Trump wanting to have a UFC event on the White House lawn. He's wanting to do that next year to celebrate 250 years of America. Now, with that being said, with him being president of the United States and, sports and all that other stuff, he's a big fan of UFC, big fan and a friend of Dana White. Do we really want sports and politics to mix together? That's going to be the second thought. The third thought, I saw a pretty cool sport, Omegaball. Do sports like Omegaball hinder the growth of the original sports that they model themselves after, or do they foster the growth? And last but not least, I want to talk about Joey Chestnut winning the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Tournament yet again. Is it greatness or not? Competitive eating? Is it a sport? What do you consider sport? We're going to talk about that on this episode of Quick Hits. So without further ado, let's start the show. So if you've been watching my episodes of Quick Hits, I'll always try to incorporate something about auto racing, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's IndyCar, whether it is Formula One racing. I've been watching all of it, became a fan of auto sports yet again, had fun with auto racing. I'm liking it. Watched the British Grand Prix yesterday. Congratulations to Nico Hulkenberg for getting on that podium. 239 starts without a podium finish. He did that. P3 at the very rainy British Grand Prix. It was great watching that. Had a great time. Although my man Max Verstappen finished 5th. He had the pole. He spun out of control, still spinning out of nowhere. Hurt my feelings. But Max still 3rd in points. The lead is getting a little out of reach for Max Verstappen at that 3rd place spot, but you know what? He'll get it together. So with that being said about my man Max Verstappen, all week we've been hearing rumors about him leaving Red Bull Racing and going to Mercedes. Now let's talk about this whole thing here. Max Verstappen under contract with Red Bull until 2028. And there's language inside of his contract that says he could leave for another racing team as early as next season if certain conditions are met. Max Verstappen has said that he would finish his career in a Red Bull car. Red Bull boss Christian Horner dismisses the talks of Max Verstappen leaving, citing it as noise. And if you've been watching Formula One these past few years, Max Verstappen has won 4 straight F1 championships as a member of Red Bull. So it's easy to see why any racing team would want Verstappen on their team. Also, too, Mercedes is a very recognizable name in Formula One, and it's easy to see why Max Verstappen would want to go with Mercedes. Now, if you watched 3 from Deep yesterday, you would have heard Jason and I have this talk about loyalty in sports, and it's really made me think, does loyalty exist in sports? And I had time to think about it, and I think it does. And the reason why I say that is because let's look at Max Verstappen here, since he is our example here. Max Verstappen has won 4 straight F1 championships for Red Bull. The crew members and everyone involved with Red Bull had a hand in making Max Verstappen a champion. Red Bull did their part. So did Max. Now, I don't expect Red Bull to give up Max Verstappen without a fight. And I don't expect Max Verstappen just to leave Red Bull for nothing in return. But no one can say that there wasn't any loyalty to each other for the success that they had. Let's look at it like this. I believe if both sides had a goal and they fulfilled it, then loyalty was obtained. And that goes for any sport at all. It could be an individual sport like racing, like tennis, like golf.
Or it could be a team sport like basketball, football, or baseball. When we get into those team sports, it gets a little bit murky and gets a little sloppy. When it comes down to team sports, your franchise player is who we're talking about here. And every team has a franchise player, regardless of what you or me thinks. There is a franchise player there. And by definition, in professional sports, a franchise player is an athlete who is the best player on the team and one that the team can build their franchise around for the foreseeable future. So great organizations, they build around their franchise players, and franchise players give back to the organization. It could be in the form of championships. That's usually the main thing as fans that we give and that we like to equate athletes to, is winning that championship. But also too, it doesn't have to be championships. It could be notoriety. It could be money. Most importantly, it's definitely got to be money, as long as the outcome is income, right? So athletes, what they have to understand also is that you have a choice between legacy and championships. If you choose legacy, you may not win championships. And if you choose championships, your legacy may suffer for that. We got to look at players. You know, there's some players that have won championships, but their legacy may not be all that great. But there's also players that have great legacy and may not win championships. Some of the best players, we can argue, some of the best players, some of the franchise guys did not win championships. Might not have. And some of your legacy guys, they might have had to go somewhere else and win a championship, and people might feel bad about that. But also, too, you got to look at it. Some of these teams didn't build around these franchise players that well, and these franchise players had to go somewhere and get a championship. So you could be giving back to a team as far as legacy, and you might have to go somewhere else and win. Or you can win championships, and it may not be in the best way possible, but you got those rings, and nobody can take that away from you. But yet and still, it's the legacy question. What does your legacy have to say about that? Some athletes have rings, but are not considered the best players of all time. Some of your best players of all time have won championships. That's the gift and the curse of sports. Not everybody is guaranteed success in all aspects of their career. So that has to be taken under consideration. So there you go with that one. Now let's talk about this politics in sports here. President Trump, this past Thursday, teased the idea of holding a UFC event on the grounds of the White House next year to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, July 4th, 2026. If you watch UFC, you know that President Trump and Dana White are close friends. The event would hold 20 to 25,000 people on the White House lawn. Conor McGregor and John Jones, who recently retired, are showing interest in being on the fight card. Now, I'm not here to talk politics. I'm not here for that. I'm not here for the talk politics and political affiliations. Please leave that at the door. When you're thinking about this, we're talking sports here on Quick Hits. That's what we do. But do sports and politics need to be in the same arena? In my opinion, I feel like this here is getting politics and sports in the same arena. I bring this up because a few years ago, I listened to an interview that the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase was on, and I'm trying to remember where that podcast is. I tried to find it yesterday. I could not. But I remember him saying that in the early years of wrestling, like early years when wrestling was being founded and, you know, pro wrestling was being fostered in the time before TV and things of that nature, people would go to the arenas to decompress from the workplace, family, and life in general by watching wrestling. Seeing their favorite wrestlers brought them joy, and after the event was over, then they could go back to life. And that is something that I hold dear as a fan of sport. I watch sports because I decompress from the day. I decompress from the week. I love watching my favorite team. I love watching my favorite sport. I love watching my favorite athletes compete. Now, taking the winning and losing aspect out of sport, I get that. That's going to be, there's always going to be a winner, there's always going to be a loser. But taking that aspect out of it, the game, taking that aspect out of it right here, sports can bring people together and they can separate them as well too. And politics does the same thing. Sports are meant to be fun, but the political arena, not so much. And mixing the two takes the fun out of the game. Everyone has the freedom of political, social, and religious beliefs, which means you cannot be persecuted for the beliefs that you have, but that doesn't mean that everyone has to listen or participate in what you believe in. Sporting events are under the right to assemble, which is in our Bill of Rights as Americans. We have the right, the freedom of assembly. So if people assemble to watch sports, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So no matter who the president is, the fact that the event is on the White House grounds, I think that's allowing politics into the arena of sports. UFC is cool, and I like UFC. I like a good fight. There are people out there that are trying to say that President Trump is doing this just to promote masculinity and make and super masculinity. I think that's crazy because, you know, UFC and fighting and boxing and MMA has been around for a long time. And I think that that's crazy to put that in there, you know, to say that, because many people have sat back and watched boxing matches and things of that nature. And there's nothing wrong with that. UFC is great. It's cool. But having my sports without politics, I would like it like that. I think that's probably the best thing for us right here. But guys, we're getting into some good sports. We're getting into some good conversation right now. Let's take a little bit of a break and we're going to come back. We're talking about Omegaball and then talking about Joey Chestnut and his winnings at the Nathan's hot dog eating competition on July 4th of this year, which was this past week. So stay with us here on Quick Hits. And welcome back to Quick Hits. Let's get these last two topics that we're talking about here on the show. Gonna get it in. We're gonna get you done and back on to the date. So let's talk about this Omegaball. I saw it. It was pretty cool. I was watching it on ESPN Ocho Saturday evening. I was getting my thoughts ready for the podcast, typing everything up on my computer. And I was looking for something to watch. And I looked, I'm like, Omegaball, what is this? So I turned it on. And it's actually pretty cool. You know, Omegaball, if you haven't heard of it, here's the rundown of it. Omegaball is a soccer-based sport where 3 teams of 5 players each compete all together on a circular field. 3 goals are placed around the perimeter, and the object is to score more than the other 2 teams. So one team can go at 2 other goals, the other team can go at the other 2 goals, and then the third team go at the other 2 goals, trying to score the most points. There's no offsides. It's not like traditional soccer where there's offsides, there's no throw-ins, and there's quick restarts after the goals are scored. As soon as the goal is scored, they do their little celebrations. It's not that long. And then they go back in and they play some more. 13 minutes, 13-minute periods. It's actually pretty fun. I was watching it. While I was watching it, I started thinking of games like this and games like pickleball, you know, games that are kind of spinoffs of other sports. And of course, Omegaball is a spinoff of soccer. And I'm wondering, do these games hinder the growth of the sports that they're spinning off of, or do they help foster the growth? Now, the founder of Omegaball admits that he thinks soccer is a really cool sport, but he hates offsides. He likes the fast pace. He likes the automatic offense. He likes to see that happening in the sport of soccer. So he created the game and based it off of that. No offsides, wanting to be fast, wanting to be quick. Now, I've watched more soccer, especially this weekend with the FIFA Club World Cup going on. PSG had a great game. Real Madrid had a very good game as well, too. That is going to be fun to see coming up this week. I'm going to be watching it. So I've been watching a good bit of soccer, been becoming a big fan of it. Auto racing has been something I've become a fan of. I've become a fan of soccer as well, too. But I'm not going to lie to you. Omegaball, this is cool, and I like it. But I really don't see how this sport could take away from the worldwide phenomenon known as soccer. I don't see how that can. As far as bring new fans into it with Omegaball, I don't think that's what it's for. I think Omegaball is something as an alternative. You might be like the founder of Omegaball and be like, soccer's cool, but nah, I think that this is better. I like this a lot more. This more fast-paced, this arcade type style of soccer is what I like. I would definitely watch Omegaball again. If I see it again on TV, I'm going to watch it. I like it. If I see soccer on TV, I'm going to watch it as well, too. It's pretty cool to see, and I bet it'd be really, really fun to play. Now, if you're interested in it, the website has all the instructions on how to play it, how to officiate it, and even where to watch it on TV. The website, www.omegaball.com. Now, here's where I want you to talk about this. Talk about it in the comments. Have you watched Omegaball? Have you played it? Put that in the comments. Tell me what you think about it. If you like it, if you don't like it, tell me how you feel. Tell me what you think of the sport. Go and watch it right now. If you haven't, come back into the comments. Tell me all about it. I love to hear about it. I thought it was cool. I'd watch it again. If you're interested in it, go to the website, www.omegaball.com. Go see about it. And last but not least, let's talk about last Friday, July 4th. Joey Josh Chestnut, after a year off, reclaimed his 17th mustard belt. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was mustard! Sorry about that. He won his 17th mustard belt, winning the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Chestnut ate 70 and a half hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. The record is 76 hot dogs and buns, set by none other than Joey Chestnut. Now, I remember when I was in high school and I used to watch Jim Rome's Burning. Man, what a time to be alive. When I'd get home from school, it'd be Around the Horn, then it'd be Party Interruption, then it'd be Jim Rome's Burning. That was my thing. I loved it. It was great. What a time to be alive. God bless Tony Reale for what he done with Around the Horn. I hope his career is going well. I missed the show. Party Interruption still going strong. Jim Rome is burning, not so much. My man Jim Rome kind of just been doing radio and leaving it at that, man. He's burnt some bridges, done some crazy things. But I like Jim Rome. I like Jim Rome is burning. But I didn't agree with him when he said this right here. Jim Rome, on his final burn on one of his episodes, I tried to find the sound bite, couldn't find it. But he said that the contest makes our country look bad because we put competitive eating on a pedestal. I like Jim Rome, I really do. But this one I got to disagree with. But it brings me to this right here. Joey Chestnut has as many mustard belts as John Cena has world titles. Is that GOAT status? Also, is Jim Rome right? Listen, I'm here to tell you right now, I don't watch competitive eating on a daily basis. I don't watch it like I do football or like I do basketball or anything like that. But look, I don't think I've ate 70 hot dogs in an entire lifetime, let alone in one sitting for 10 minutes. That takes some skill. That's not something that you just do and leave it at that. That takes some skill. That takes some training. GOAT status? Absolutely. I may not try to do this right here, and I really don't have the desire to do so. But if you do and want to be a competitive eater, go for it. Just because I don't like the sport, or somebody else doesn't like the sport, or someone else thinks that the sport is dumb, does not mean you have to listen. And they don't have to like it, and they don't have to understand it. If you watch competitive eating, enjoy it. Have a great time. Being a fan of sport is all about enjoyment. And if someone else doesn't like it, so what? I got mad respect for the competitive eaters out there. I got mad respect for all of the athletes. I got mad respect for their fans. Enjoy that. Love it. Congratulations to Joey Chestnut, 17 titles. Excellent job. He said he's coming back next year. That is cool. Ladies and gentlemen, we are done here on Quick Hits. We are finished. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time and your attention. I will be here on Friday talking WNBA, talking about the All-Stars. We got reserves being named for the All-Star game in the WNBA. I'm looking forward to talking about it. Power rankings, my favorite competitors, the games, breaking them down. I'm looking forward to doing that on Friday. Catch me then. Another Fan of Sport Tuesday coming up next week. I'm having fun with this format. Thank you so much for your time and attention. As always, I'm Shannon Smith, and this is Quick Hits.
Can't fall off, now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly